Why are you working 60 hours per week and don't know where your money is? Let's talk about the FishBowl cycle that's keeping you poor and depressed, the war on financial self-sabotage. You ever stop to actually look at the pattern? Not just the surface churn, the daily grind, the endless to-do list, but the deeper architecture of your days, the underlying structure that dictates where you end up. You work. You trade your finite time, your very life energy, for a number on a screen, a slip of paper. And then what? Then comes the release, the supposed reward, the swipe of the card, the click of the button, the bag in your hand, a momentary flicker of satisfaction, a brief silencing of that nagging something, and then the inevitable reckoning. The wallet feels lighter than it should. The bank balance stares back with a cold indifference. Where did it all go? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, a testament to a fundamental lack of awareness, a profound absence of control. And the cycle begins anew. Work, earn, spend, frustration. A hamster on a gilded wheel, convinced of its progress by the sheer effort expended, oblivious of the fact that the scenery never changes. This isn't life, not in any meaningful sense of the word. This is a self-imposed limitation, a psychological cage constructed brick by brick with impulsive decisions and a fundamental unwillingness to confront the truth of your own habits. What you're ensnared in, often without a flicker of conscious recognition, is what I call the FishBowl cycle. You swim, yes. You exert energy, undoubtedly. You feel the current, the movement of your own activity. But you are contained. Your world is circumscribed by the limits of your own unexamined impulses. You are a creature of reaction, not a master of your domain. Money comes in a stimulus, and you respond predictably, often unconsciously. You don't direct your spending, you discharge it. Your emotions, those fleeting, often poorly understood urges, become the de facto architects of your financial reality. A bad day at the office, a surge of anxiety, a momentary boredom, each becomes a justification for a small act of financial self-sabotage, a tiny leak in the hull of your economic ship. And the truly insidious part? The staggering lack of self-awareness. You mistake activity for achievement. You equate the hours clocked with tangible progress. You believe that the sheer volume of your transactions somehow signifies a life well lived, a reward justly earned. You fill your physical space with things, tangible representations of your fleeting desires, and confuse that accumulation with genuine fulfillment. A full shopping cart becomes a symbol of what, exactly? A temporary reprieve from a void? A fleeting attempt to soothe an unacknowledged discomfort? It's a fool's errand, a superficial plaster on a deeper wound. Listen carefully. If you do not awaken to this pattern, if you continue to drift along the currents of your own undisciplined desires, you will remain in this state indefinitely. Not because you are inherently lazy or incapable, not because the world is conspiring against you, but because you lack the fundamental control over your own internal landscape. You are a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the waves of your own untamed impulses. The path out of this cycle begins with a brutal act of self-honesty. You must be willing to confront the uncomfortable truth of your own spending habits, the emotional triggers that drive them, and the profound lack of intentionality that defines your financial life. This isn't about shame. Shame is a useless emotion, a self-inflicted wound that serves only to paralyze. This is about responsibility, the sober recognition that you are the architect of your own financial prison, and therefore, you possess the agency to dismantle it. The first step is simply to see the fishbowl, to recognize the circularity, the lack of genuine progress, the underlying frustration that gnaws at you despite your efforts. Only then can you begin the arduous, but ultimately liberating task of breaking free. Next time, we'll begin to dissect the why behind this impulsive spending. It's not about the things themselves. It's about the void they temporarily fill. We'll delve into the uncomfortable truth of emotional spending and the fundamental lack of self-regulation that fuels the cycle. Until then, take a long, hard look at your own fishbowl. Are you truly progressing, or are you just swimming in circles? The answer, I suspect, lies in the quiet discomfort you've been trying so hard to ignore. So you're in the fishbowl. You're working, you're earning, Your spending and frustration mounts. The question, the truly critical question, is why? Why do you keep reaching for that fleeting sense of satisfaction, that momentary silencing of the unease, with things that ultimately leave you in the same or worse position? It's rarely about the thing itself. It's not the meticulously crafted latte, the latest iteration of the smartphone, the brightly packaged gadget promising a solution to a problem you didn't even know you had. These are merely the vehicles. The real transaction is an attempt to alter an internal state. You're not buying coffee. You're buying a brief ritual, a moment of warmth and sensory input to punctuate a monotonous morning. You're not buying shoes. You're buying a perceived boost in status, a fleeting sense of belonging, a temporary elevation of your self-image. You're not buying that takeout. You're buying convenience, a momentary reprieve from the responsibility of planning and preparing, a small act of self-indulgence after a taxing day. These purchases, these seemingly innocuous transactions, are often driven by a deeper, unacknowledged need, the need for escape. You're attempting to momentarily distract yourself from the underlying currents of dissatisfaction, the low-grade anxiety that hums beneath the surface of your daily life, the feeling that something is amiss. Every impulsive click of add to cart, every swipe of the plastic, every rationalization of a treat-yourself moment is, in essence, a handshake deal with a weaker, less disciplined version of yourself. It's a temporary truce with the discomfort of your own unaddressed issues. You want to fix your bank account? Then you must first confront your relationship with discomfort itself. Most individuals trapped in the fishbowl spend emotionally because they have never cultivated the capacity to simply sit with the tension of desire. The urge arises, the craving intensifies, and the immediate response is to scratch the itch to alleviate the feeling with a purchase. This isn't primarily a matter of financial literacy. You likely understand, on an intellectual level, that spending more than you earn leads to negative consequences. The problem lies deeper, in a fundamental lack of psychological self-regulation. It's a deficit in the ability to manage your own internal states, to tolerate the mild unpleasantness of wanting something and consciously choosing to delay or deny that gratification. Until you cultivate the capacity to look your cravings squarely in the eye, to acknowledge their presence without immediately succumbing to their demands, no budgeting spreadsheet, no intricate financial plan, no well-meaning advice will ultimately save you. The problem isn't the external world of enticing products and clever marketing. The problem resides within. Consider the supermarket, a microcosm of this very struggle. You walk in with a list, a semblance of intention, but then the brightly colored displays, the strategic placement of tempting items, the subtle suggestion of a good deal. These act as triggers, bypassing your rational mind and appealing directly to your emotional vulnerabilities. You end up with a cart full of things you didn't intend to buy. Things that offer a momentary pleasure, but contribute nothing to your long-term well-being or financial stability. This isn't about denying yourself all pleasure. That's an unsustainable and ultimately resentful approach. It's about discerning between genuine needs, considered wants, and those impulsive grabs for a fleeting emotional fix. It's about understanding the motivation behind the purchase. Are you buying something because it aligns with your values and long-term goals? Or are you simply trying to soothe a temporary discomfort, the ability to delay gratification, to endure the mild tension of wanting without immediate fulfillment, is a hallmark of psychological maturity. It's the capacity to prioritize long-term well-being over short-term pleasure, and it's a muscle that needs to be consciously exercised. So, the next time the urge to spend arises, pause. Don't immediately reach for your wallet. Sit with the feeling. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to buy here? Is it the object itself, or is it a temporary escape from something else? Understanding the underlying emotional architecture of your spending habits is the crucial first step in dismantling the fishbowl. Next time, we'll delve into the insidious myth of rewarding yourself. The seemingly harmless justification for impulsive spending often masks a deeper avoidance of self and a fundamental misunderstanding of what truly constitutes a meaningful reward. Until then, begin to examine the emotional undercurrents of your spending. What are you truly buying when you reach for that momentary hit of consumer satisfaction? The answer, however uncomfortable, is the key to unlocking your financial freedom. The myth of rewarding yourself. This is where the rationalizations take root, where the undisciplined self masquerades as deserving. I deserve this. How often have you uttered those words, a seemingly innocent justification for a purchase that, upon closer inspection, contributes little to your long-term well-being? After a grueling week, the internal narrative begins. You've earned it. You put in the hours. A little something to take the edge off, to acknowledge your effort. So you succumb. You swipe the card. The digital confirmation flashes on the screen. The anticipation of the arrival of your reward offers a momentary lift. You convince yourself it's a harmless indulgence, a necessary act of self-care in a demanding world. But let's be brutally honest. Often this is a reward. It's avoidance, plain and simple. It's a superficial attempt to soothe the deeper discomfort of a life that feels somehow off-kilter. You're not truly celebrating your achievements. You're seeking a temporary anesthetic for the unaddressed anxieties and frustrations that accumulate throughout the week. Discipline, that often maligned virtue, isn't the antithesis of joy. It is, in fact, its very foundation. Because genuine joy, the kind that resonates deeply and endures, arises from purposeful action, from the slow, deliberate construction of a life aligned with your values and long-term aspirations. The fleeting pleasure derived from impulsive spending, untethered to any real achievement or meaningful goal, is a counterfeit joy, a sugar rush that inevitably leads to a crash of regret. That's the critical piece they conveniently leave out of the self-indulgence narrative. You think you're choosing freedom when you spend without conscious thought, liberated from the perceived constraints of budgeting and financial planning. But what you're truly choosing is a subtle form of future servitude, slavery to the accumulating debt, the stagnant savings, the persistent feeling of being perpetually behind. A man who cannot delay gratification, who cannot withstand the siren call of immediate pleasure, remains perpetually trapped in a state of financial adolescence. He is governed by impulse, driven by the need for instant satisfaction, incapable of the mature foresight required to build a secure and meaningful future. If you aspire to grow up, not just chronologically, but financially, psychologically, and even spiritually, then you must undertake the challenging task of redefining what it truly means to feel good. True satisfaction doesn't come from the immediate acquisition of material possessions. It arises from the sense of progress, the quiet confidence that comes from aligning your actions with your long-term goals, the inner peace that accompanies a life lived with intention and integrity. Consider the nature of genuine reward. It's often tied to effort, to overcoming obstacles, to the tangible manifestation of your hard work. The satisfaction of completing a challenging project, the quiet pride in reaching a fitness goal, the deep connection forged through meaningful relationships. These are the rewards that truly nourish the soul and contribute to lasting well-being. They require effort, patience, and a commitment to something beyond immediate gratification. The impulsive purchase, on the other hand, offers a shortcut, a fleeting illusion of reward without the necessary investment of time and effort. It's the equivalent of eating empty calories. It provides a temporary sensation of fullness, but leaves you ultimately malnourished. So, the next time you find yourself uttering those seductive words, "I deserve this," pause and interrogate that impulse. What have you truly earned? Is this purchase a genuine celebration of meaningful progress? Or is it a thinly veiled attempt to soothe an unacknowledged discomfort or avoid a more fundamental issue? Learn to discern between the voice of genuine self-care and the whimper of undisciplined desire. True self-care often involves the challenging work of self-regulation, of prioritizing long-term well-being over fleeting pleasures. It's about building a life that doesn't require constant, impulsive rewards to feel tolerable. Short musical interlude, a more thoughtful, almost cautionary melody. Host, next time, we'll begin to lay out a practical framework, a structure that can provide the scaffolding for genuine financial freedom, the 50/20/30 rule. But remember, the effectiveness of any external system is ultimately determined by the internal character of the individual implementing it. Until then, critically examine your own justifications for impulsive spending. Are you truly rewarding yourself? Or are you simply delaying the inevitable reckoning with your own undisciplined desires? The answer, however uncomfortable, is the first step towards genuine financial maturity. All right, let's move from diagnosis to prescription. Episode 4 of Breaking the Fishbowl, The war on financial self-sabotage. The 50-20-30 rule. Structure that sets you free. This isn't about magic. It's about the foundational architecture of a life lived with financial intention. You're tired of the chaos. The feeling that your money vanishes into a black hole. The endless cycle of earning and wondering where it all went. You don't need some esoteric secret or a sudden windfall. What you fundamentally require is structure, a framework upon which to build a more stable and predictable financial reality. Enter the 50-20-30 rule. It's not a mystical incantation. It's a practical guideline, a way to allocate your finite resources in a manner that addresses your needs, secures your future, and acknowledges your desires without letting them run rampant. 50% of your after-tax income allocated to needs. These are the essentials: housing, food, transportation, basic utilities, minimum debt payments. The things you absolutely must cover to maintain your existence and your basic obligations. This category demands ruthless honesty. What is a genuine need, and what has morphed into a perceived necessity through habit or social pressure? This distinction is critical. 20% directed toward savings and debt repayment beyond the minimum. This is the engine of your future financial freedom. Building an emergency fund, tackling high-interest debt, investing for the long term. This 20% is not discretionary. It's a non-negotiable commitment to your future self, a bulwark against the inevitable storms of life, and the seed capital for your aspirations. And finally, 30% allocated to wants. This is where those rewards, those discretionary expenditures reside. Entertainment, dining out, hobbies, non-essential shopping. This 30% acknowledges a human desire for enjoyment and allows for flexibility, but within clearly defined boundaries. Now, the rule itself is simple. The challenge, the real work, lies in its consistent execution. And that execution isn't primarily a matter of mathematical prowess or spreadsheet wizardry. It's a reflection of your internal structure, your character, your willingness to impose order on the often turbulent landscape of your desires. Budgeting isn't some dry, bureaucratic exercise that begins on a digital document. It originates within you. It's a manifestation of your commitment to self-governance, your decision to be the conscious director of your financial resources rather than a passive recipient of their ebb and flow. Until you cultivate the internal fortitude to tell your money where to go, instead of perpetually lamenting its mysterious disappearance, you will remain tethered to the fishbowl. You will continue to experience the illusion of progress through effort, while the underlying anxiety of financial instability persists. You'll feel the fleeting satisfaction of impulsive purchases, followed by the gnawing regret of an empty wallet. You'll feel busy, you'll feel broke, and beneath it all, a subtle but corrosive sense of shame. But once you begin to erect walls around your spending, once you consciously assign a purpose to every dollar that enters your possession, a profound shift begins to occur. You start to feel something alien, something powerful. Control, and control, true control, is the very essence of freedom. Not the illusory freedom of unrestrained impulse, the fleeting liberation of a shopping spree, but the genuine freedom that arises from knowing you are building something solid, something that will provide security and opportunity in the years to come. It's a freedom from the constant anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck, the freedom to pursue your goals without the crushing weight of unmanageable debt, the freedom to envision a future unburdened by financial insecurity. The 50/20/30 rule is a starting point, a foundational framework. It may need adjustments based on your individual circumstances, your income level, your debt obligations. But the underlying principle remains: intentional allocation. Every dollar must have a job. Every expenditure must be considered in the context of your overall financial well-being and your long-term aspirations. This isn't about deprivation. It's about prioritization. It's about consciously choosing where your limited resources will have the greatest impact on your life, both now and in the future. It's about aligning your spending with your values, rather than allowing it to be dictated by fleeting emotions and external pressures. Next time, we'll delve into the uncomfortable truth that your wallet serves as a stark mirror, reflecting your deepest values and your most consistent habits, often with a brutal honesty that your self-narrative attempts to obscure. Until then, consider the architecture of your own financial life. Is it a haphazard collection of impulsive decisions or a consciously designed structure built with intention and foresight? The answer to that question will determine whether you remain in the aimless drift of the fishbowl or begin to chart a course towards genuine financial freedom.